Perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's really an honor to be moderating here today the panel with this interesting topic, the green shipping. Is it still on? And for that, let me first introduce a great lineup of distinguished panelists with me. We have, first of all, Captain Saif Al-Mheiri, CEO of Abu Dhabi Maritime and Chief Sustainability Officer of Abu Dhabi Ports. We have Weng, CEO of Managing Director of Pacific Carrier Limited and also Chair for the Singapore Maritime Foundation. Ms. Semiramis Paliou, CEO of Diana Shipping and Chairperson for HELMEPA and INTERMEPA. Mr. Andreas Enger, CEO of Höegh Autoliners. And Ms. Charis Plakantonaki, Chief Strategy Officer of Starboard Carriers. So, whether the green transition is still on or not is actually a multifaceted question, which hinges into a broad set of themes. On one side, we see the geopolitical environment and all the imposition of the sanctions, and one could wonder whether we are at a risk of moving backwards. But at the other side, you look at the industry, and actually things are happening. Projects are still on, piloting, innovation, more collaboration. Now, whether this is happening at the scale and at the speed that we need to meet the goals that the regulators have set for us is up for debate. So what I suggest we do now is let's try to break down all these challenges and opportunities and look at it to hopefully get some key insights from the regulatory, the geopolitical, the technology, and a little bit of finance point of view. So let's start maybe from the geopolitical side. And we know the previous panel have extensively touched upon it, but I think we need to touch upon it a little bit more also from the decarbonization side. We see there's a rise in protectionism with these new tariffs, especially between major economies, and that could lead to new global trade flows and maybe the creation of new global trade blocks. So maybe we can start with you, Andreas, and Weng. How do you see these developments influencing your decarbonization strategy?
The fair answer to that is I don't know. I have my sort of favorite joke, and it's not a joke these days, is that if we hadn't been exposed to news this year, we would have thought that the world was completely normal. Yeah. We have been exposed to news, so we know that things are coming. But I think maybe the most encouraging one, we have, obviously because of geopolitics, been around visiting our key customers in the US, in Europe, in China, in Japan, and we do that because of the worries about the trade and tariffs, and at least what we consider the most sort of forward-leaning of our clients, which are large global automotive producers, large sort of mining and construction equipment producers, even in the current turmoil, they want to spend time on their path to lower and eventually zero carbon. So in our view, it is noise.
Okay.
It is worrisome. I mean, I wouldn't leave that up. There are things happening that is not good for an industry like ours that to many extents have a single purpose of facilitating global trade. But it's not our experience talking directly with the principal cargo owners and equipment makers that they are leaving their decarbonization ambitions. So I'm still positive, but it's becoming more complicated.
Okay. What about you, Weng?
Yeah, I tend to agree very much with Andreas. Let me try to tackle your questions in three parts. I think first, we see what's happening in the geopolitical space, tariff, sanctions, Trump, of course, China. It's quite concerning, but to me, the crux of the decarbonization challenge hasn't really changed. And to me, the crux is availability or lack of infrastructure for alternative fuels. And secondly, a lack of confidence in scalable or alternative fuel supply chain. So we see a lot of movements in the regulatory front, whether it's EU ETS or Fuel EU or even IMO, MEPC IMO 83. Now, this gives mainly a legal framework and what penalties would look like, but there's no parallel certainty on what are the solutions when it comes to viable, globally available bunker fuel. So I think there's a misalignment between regulatory push and pressures and infrastructure readiness. And until this is properly addressed, I think we are going to see very differing approaches, and people are still very, very skeptical to invest. Not just ship owners, I think across the whole ecosystem. So I think for ship owners like ourselves, we are asked to make long-term decisions, not knowing what fuel will be available, where we're going to get them, and where they're going to be saved, and we don't know how if any of the ports are really fully ready. And even for fuel producers, what we are seeing, they're also hesitating. I read a recent news that Ørsted has cancelled their flagship e-methanol project in Sweden because lack of viability, lack of demand. So to me, until the offstream confidence that there is offtake available and downstream assurance that the fuels will be able to be supplied and safely, I think the progress will be at best, very different and fragmented. But to your question, Cristina, with regards to the regional or country front, actually, I'm pretty happy to see some countries have taken leadership and create some momentum. So in Singapore, for example, the government, MPA, and its associates have looked to develop multi-fuel pathways, start training, or look at methanol bunkering. Japan has done a lot of work, as far as I know, with regards to developing the supply chain for ammonia, both the energy companies and as well as the shipping companies. But the issue to me is still lack of coordination, lack of convergence. And so we see things being done on a very disparate basis. And if I look at the company level, what we do in my group in PCL, frankly, flexibility is the key, right? We want to keep the options open. We do not know a lot of questions, a lot of answers to questions. So I think the key is, I think someone mentioned just now, is to be agile.
Yes.
And particularly for the trades we are in, we have bulk carriers, multi-purpose, tankers, right? We can't be committed to a single fuel pathways. It's just impossible. So the best thing we think we can do and we should do, the things we can control, which is largely around operational efficiency. How do you better voyage plan, speed management, hull and propellant cleaning, energy saving device. I think that's the thing we can do, because these things are not terribly sexy, right? But they are doable, they are scalable, and you can measure the amount of emissions. So I think to us, going forward, we monitor the space very closely. It's important that we are ready when the ecosystem is ready to move. But I think that agility and flexibility is important. We don't want to be pigeonholed into a certain field, which is going to be difficult to look at other things if we are just overly focused on one.
So from a geopolitical and trade perspective, it's more or less business as usual,
More or
a
less,
bit more
different
shaky.
stuff, lots of noises.
Okay, noise, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but that's good to hear, and it's good to resonate with the previous panel, right, on that agility, flexibility, and I fully agree that that's something that our industry needs to weather these times ahead. Great, thank you. So we have touched upon the geopolitical and the trade side, right? Now, regulatory, right, which is a big thing, obviously, these days for our industry, and we know regulations are coming thick and fast. We have the EU Maritime, the EU ETS, full EU Maritime, and we will see maybe something like this coming on a global scale from IMO, should the net zero framework be implemented by the end of the decade. These are big things. So how are these developments framing your investment decisions? Because these are really complicated, right? Are they providing you enough clarity and so that you can actually plan long term? Maybe Semiramis, and then yourself, Charis.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yes, regulations are very important. They drive the industry towards decarbonization. They play a critical role. They are a catalyst. Especially the new IMO MEPC 83 framework, the net zero framework, the global fuel standards, the economic measures. They have ambitious targets that will set the industry in a decarbonization path. But here lies the problem, that there is no clarity on how to do this. So we're talking about the technologies which are still at an early stage. So how do you decarbonize the existing fleet? I think the best solution is carbon capture, but that still technology is at a very primitive stage. How do you make decisions for new building orders? Again, the alternative fuels are still under debate, concerns about their availability, their costs. They play an important role when one has to invest. And then technologies as wind propulsion or other energy-saving devices, they do exist, but they're not capable to decarbonize the industry. So having said that, it's very understandable why the shipping industry, especially the dry bulk sector, is having a wait and what's it called?
Wait and see.
Wait and see stance. The investments are high. It's very speculative. The risk is important. So the owners are waiting to see. For us at Diana Shipping, we've actually placed an order for 2 dual-fuel methanol Kamsarmax vessels. We feel that we've done it in a calculated manner, in a conservative manner. We feel it's an opinion. We've decided that we want to play a constructive role in decarbonizing the industry, and this is the small part that we are playing to lead the industry in that direction. But back to regulations. Regulations need to be ambitious, but at the same time, they need to be practical and predictable so that the industry feels comfortable to place investments for the long term. Thank you.
Charis, from your side.
Thank you, Cristina.
Yes.
Okay, great. And thank you to Nicholas for bringing us together once again. Now, to your question, Cristina, following the recent MEPC, we do see more clarity as to what lies ahead in terms of global environmental regulations. We see clarity, more clarity, not 100% clarity, on 4 areas. First, we do know the time frame, so we know that it is very likely that as of January 2028, we will be faced with global penalties. I'm saying very likely because, of course, we have the October approval pending, as was mentioned by the previous panel. Second area where we see more clarity is the type of penalties, the type of measures. Back until a few months ago, we were discussing about a global carbon levy. Now this is off the table. The discussions are around a single technical measure, which is the greenhouse gas fuel intensity of a vessel, which is, of course, a similar regulation to the Fuel EU. So the discussion has shifted, and economic measure is not on the table anymore. It is only a technical measure. The third area where we see more clarity is with regards to the penalties that we have ahead of us. We know that if we fail to meet the base target, we have a penalty of $380 per ton CO2. If we fail to meet the direct target, $100 per ton CO2. And finally, we also have more clarity as to how we are able to comply in case we do not meet the GFI targets, which is basically by either purchasing surplus units or purchasing remedial units, or transferring surplus units from other vessels, basically the pooling mechanism that is also part of FuelEU. Now, because of this additional clarity from a strategy standpoint in our company, we are in a better position to quantify, to perform cost-benefit analysis on the different fuels and technologies that we may have available in the future or which are already available. So basically, we are researching all the fuels that have a lower GFI than HFO, VLSFO, which is basically what the majority of the global fleet is burning. These fuels are LNG, biofuels, biomethanol, green ammonia. All these fuels have a lower GFI than HFO, VLSFO. And by knowing the time frame, the type of penalties, the cost of the penalties, the compliance mechanism, we are in a better position to perform a cost-benefit analysis, comparing the penalties that we would be saving if we were to burn one of these fuels, compared with the additional costs. These costs can be additional capital expenditure, additional operating expenses by burning different fuels, but also, of course, additional bunker fuel. And in many cases, these are just estimates because, of course, some of these fuels are not available yet in the market. So we have to make some assumptions there as to their future cost. Now, the same applies also for technologies, green technologies. So now we are in a better position to assess the cost benefit of developing technologies like onboard carbon capture, like wind-assisted propulsion, which, for example, in the past, the payback period was not that attractive. Maybe from 2028 onward, it becomes more attractive. But also the existing technologies that we have been investing on during these past years in terms of improving energy efficiency, so energy-saving solutions. Now their payback period becomes again more attractive, and we are in a better position to quantify that. Moving forward, we would need more clarity also as to how the IMO plans to direct the income that they're getting from the penalties towards the market, to see also how they can help accelerate developments around green fuels and technologies, where, as other panelists have already mentioned, there is a lot of uncertainty with regards to their supply chains, safety protocols, etc., etc. But also, it would provide us more clarity to understand what Europe intends to do with regards to aligning the regulations with the new global regulations, so that we don't have two different regulatory schemes to deal with in the future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Andreas, you wanted to comment?
Yes. Now, first, the regulatory part, and for us at least, investing in this, the IMO achievement in London, and hopefully the sort of confirmation of that in October, is, in my view, the most important factor to get decarbonization moving. And there are several reasons for that. I mean, and it's also incredibly important for shipping, because there are really no other high-emitting, carbon-emitting industries that has the same regulatory power as an efficient IMO regulation. As long as all the large cargo destinations are on board, there is no way to operate a ship globally if you're not in compliance with IMO rules. So that's incredibly important. And I would challenge the view that this is so uncertain. I recognize that it will take decades to scale infrastructure and actually decarbonize shipping. But I would argue that we know exactly what to do. I was at the Oslo Stock Exchange with Andrew Forrest a few minutes ago, and he has a very clear message on that. We have ordered our first 4 dual-fuel ammonia vessels. They will be delivered from 2025. MAN is producing the engines. We are working with, Yara, Sumitomo, Fortescue, others on fuel supply. We know everything we need to know to get this started. Then the scaling will take decades, but it doesn't start before you actually start. And the IMO regulations and some predictability on how these carbon rules are tightened will make this happen. And we know from dialogues with our customers that with the proper carbon pricing or incentive structure in place, we will be able to start establishing the first green corridors running zero carbon shipping from 2027. Then that works for us with, you know, branded consumer goods in our cargo space, and with trading patterns that needs we can run a large amount of zero carbon fuel with 3 or 4 bunkering spaces. We talked about, talked about Singapore, several of the ports in the ARA region. There will be, we believe, blue ammonia available in the Gulf of Mexico, and there will be something in Australia connected to the iron ore chain with Fortescue in the process of ordering, getting access to ammonia fueled, bulk carriers, Newcastlemaxes for their iron ore trade. But so those vessels can be built. They will be built. We will build them. And we can afford that even as a $1.5 billion company, not a huge company. But we cannot afford to underwrite the fuel bills for our customers. So unless we get those IMO regulations in order and get a sufficient regulatory boundary, then these vessels will have clean ammonia on their tanks, but will continue to run on LSFO, right? But the regulation can entangle that. And if we get that started, that will start all the processes, send the demand signals, get the first things, prove the technology, and start leveraging the front runners on the port side, offering bunkering. So I think we are ready to go. Not to say that everybody's ready to go, and not to say that it will not take a few decades to run it out, and we're still missing solutions for old ships, I think, and to a large extent, or you have biofuel or other things, but still, on the new build side, we can get started, and we can prove the technology, we can start bunkering, and we can start creating the demand signals that will scale. And ammonia as a fuel is, I think the main energy analysts will subscribe to that, is infinitely scalable. It can be produced from green electricity produced in desert regions or places. It can be used to facilitate growth, industrial growth in the sun belts in Africa. It can be a fantastic contribution to developing the world. It can also be carbon capture produced from natural gas, which is an abundant supply. So the only thing is missing is to get this going and create the demand signals, and then it will still take time, but it doesn't start before you start. And the most important thing right now is to get started.
Okay. So it's we are on the right path, and it's giving us a little bit of foresight, right? Yes, please. Yeah, Captain Saif, you wanted to.
From the past, from the previous panel discussion and this one, you can see there are a number of speculations about the readiness of the infrastructure, as well as what sort of initiatives that the shipping industry has for decarbonize, to decarbonize. So we are talking about the ones which is everybody's implementing, basically the efficiency. Then you have electrification, which are at certain scale you can do, but not on larger vessels. Then alternative fuel and then renewable energy. So from all of these, it's very clear the shipping by itself, it cannot decarbonize by 2050. That's very hard. But IMO has adopted 2050, but with the changes of the milestones, 20 to 30% by 2030 and 70 to 80% by 2040. So, and there is an estimation I read as well that it will require an investment of over $1 trillion to up to 2040. And that's huge considering the age of the fleet right now around the world. So with regulations, which is also something we are waiting for, but the industry supply and demand regarding the green fuel readiness, who will invest on them, I think we are in a chicken or egg situation. And this is something we hope in the next coming years with intensive R&Ds and technology is coming, things will be more feasible, and industries will start to be going toward faster track to decarbonize. I'm thinking for the next half of the 2050. Yeah.
Weng, do you have any views?
Yeah, I think, I mean, to me, a lot of things we need to do today. Of course, there are a lot of things to be done tomorrow. And really, I still go back to what I think, as the gentleman just said, things we can do today for existing ships is really around energy efficiency. They are not terribly cutting edge, but they are proven, they are scalable. You can measure the gains. Infrastructure to me it's a very tricky issue because you're talking about infrastructure of ports, you're talking about infrastructure of production alternative fuels, and some of this infrastructure, where is the money going to come from? I think it has got to be probably a combination of the public, government agencies, probably a lot of that from there, and private enterprise. Imagine, how that is going to really work out. There is kind of scale across. So to me, I'm still quite a skeptic when it comes to, it will be there, but the timing of the readiness of this infrastructure may not necessarily be the same in line with what we have seen. And there's also the fact about port readiness. I think one factor we have not really brought up is really about people, the crew, right? They need to be trained. We do not want to expose, our fellow seafarers to potential very hazardous impact of the fuel. So a lot of things to be done, no doubt. I think things are kind of happening in pockets. We need to swap up all these pockets to make a good piece of shirt.
Thank you, Weng. We have been touching upon it a little bit, but let's dig deeper on the fuel and technology side, right? And we have seen that new orders are being ships are being ordered with alternative fuels more and more, but still we have over 90% of the seagoing vessels, sailing with conventional fuels. As far as I know, we don't have a crystal ball, at least I don't have, to understand, what fuel will be ready in the future, where, at what price. So it's really complex to take that decision today, right? So maybe, Captain Saif, how do you do that? Can you share a little bit with us about your fleet renewal strategy? How do you take those long-term decisions with all the uncertainties we have today?
The newer fleets are, of course, that one of the great examples. We have one of our latest Ro-Ro ships, which is a dual fuel, UGR Samha, which is LNG dual fuel, and it is one of the largest Ro-Ro ships with 7,000 cars capacity. And we are doing electrifications in a number of our tugboats, fully electrical. One of them got a Guinness World Record for the most powerful electrical tug. And also the pilot boats that we are having, also we are renewing them with the fully electrical hydrofoil. These are initiatives, as I mentioned, is part of the efficiency part and electrification. Alternative fuel, right now we have the LNG that we are mentioning as AD Port Group. So we have a vertically integrated trade enabler. So all of our clusters, which are 5 clusters, are complementing and supporting each other in decarbonization. So part of that as well is one of our clusters, which is Economic Cities and Free Zone, which is the largest concentration of green industry. So we signed an agreement last month to explore storage for green fuels as well. So this will supply our vessels as well as other vessels visiting our flagship Khalifa port in Abu Dhabi. And the main challenge with alternative fuel is that it is not as attractive as the conventional fuel. This is what's happening now. And we are hoping that the coming regulations will make them more attractive. However, the current situation we are in is more focusing on what is our new build should be more dual fuel, more ready toward having alternative fuel, depending on the types that is coming or will be available in the market as per the studies and speculations. So this is where we stand right now.
When you?
Yeah, I just want to address a point which you mentioned that, 90% or probably more of existing fleet on the water today are not equipped with alternative fuel capability. So to me, one thing that will probably come in my mind pretty significantly is retrofit. A conversion of existing fleet into able to either some form of burning alternative fuels or retrofit to be a lot more efficient. So I think that's an area which is going to be very interesting. I see it with my own eyes because I belong to a group which has shipping as well as shipyards. So between my colleagues in the shipping group and the shipyard group, we work very closely to kind of co-create and look at how we can do practical but innovative solutions. Because no one can envisage, can imagine how world trade can stop, right? Until you retrofit or until you have new ships coming into the water to replace those 90%. So I think this is going to be, to me, a very important phenomenon that's going to come in the short to medium term.
Thank you. Andreas, do you want to share?
Yeah, no, we have taken a somewhat more aggressive approach. We are definitely going dual fuel because I don't think we can, are willing to bet on the exact time frame for the adoption. But as I said, we have confirmed contracts with MAN and also Hyundai Heavy Industry for building the engines for ammonia engines. We will have 4 of them in operation by 2028. We have built conversion that are fully engineered, so we can have capacity for having more than 100,000 cars on the water on zero carbon emitting vessels in 2031 or 2. So we have basically said that we believe this will happen. The IMO regulations will make it more attractive. We have hedged our bet. We will not underwrite fuel bill again for our customers. We are capable of providing the tool to allow our customers, to cargo owners, to decarbonize. We're not able to underwrite the fuel cost. The IMO regulations will take it a long way. So we are, in a way, and we think that is important for the entire industry to deal with all the complexities that we are discussing here, which I think are real. They are, in our view, can only be solved by getting these vessels on the water, getting fuel in the tanks, running them, dealing with customers to figure out how to get it run, starting piloting with some niche customers that, and in our segment, that means, very expensive mining and construction equipment, going electric, going into, decarbonizing mining and construction operations, very expensive equipment, might be willing to pay the extra to get the chain. Some of the premium cars, my joke is that, if you're selling a Bentley, adding $100 of cost to make the buyer feel a bit better about his purchase is probably a good deal. It's a much further way with the commodity cargo. So I think you have all these complexities, but you need to start in the corner and start winding. And that's our focus. So we are not projecting our decisions on everybody else, but we believe it's important to find the segments that have the customer base, have the trade pattern, have the investment, renewal plans that are able to get started, and then we think that will help accelerate the entire transition, and that's really our focus. And the most important thing is that it is possible. It's difficult to scale. It's not for everybody, but it's possible to do, and it can get done. And it's important to get it done. I think that's my most important message, and then everybody has to make their own choices, but we are able to get started on this journey, and that's important to reach the 2040 and 2050 goals.
Thank you. Good to have that positivism. So, but alternative fuels are for the long term. They are not ready as of yet, and we need to start, if we want to meet the goals, we need to start decarbonizing our fleets now. One of the ways of doing that is through energy efficiency devices. So maybe, Charis, can you share what's StarBulk doing to decarbonize your fleet now?
Of course. Thank you, Cristina. No surprises here. We are continuing the same strategies that we have been following the past years to decarbonize, fleet renewal, upgrading our existing fleet, operational measures. To be more specific, when it comes to fleet renewal, during the past 2 years, we have sold more than 35 older, less efficient vessels. We have placed new building orders for new vessels with new engines that are much more energy efficient. So we are chartering in newer, more efficient tonnage. So this way, we continuously strive to reduce the average age of our fleet and improve the energy efficiency, the CII profile of our fleet. Upgrading our existing fleet, a lot of investments have taken place the past years on energy-saving devices like ducts, post-cap fins, VFDs. But we also place a lot of focus on continuously monitoring the performance of our vessels. We have deployed telemetry on board our ships. We have a dedicated team in the office which on a daily basis looks into cases of overconsumption, and we take prompt action whether on the technical or operational front in order to address these cases. And of course, hull maintenance is a top priority for us, trying to keep the hulls of our vessels as clean as possible. We see major savings in terms of energy efficiency on that front. We have increased the frequency of hull inspections, of hull cleanings. We accelerate dry docks whenever there is a need to do that. We are using advanced anti-fouling paints. And very important, we are also piloting a number of technologies on the remotely automated hull cleaning robots. We see a lot of potential in that technology. On the operational front, we continue to leverage optimization platforms and AI in order to perform weather routing, to optimize speed, to optimize arrival in ports. And we also invest a lot on research and development when it comes to new technologies. For example, onboard carbon capture technology, we are performing feasibility assessments. And as I mentioned previously, we are also assessing wind-assisted propulsion. Now, of course, this is easy for us in the sense that we are a large company and we have the resources, both financial and human resources, in order to identify, test, pilot, implement, maintain these energy-saving solutions and all the work around R&D. Unfortunately, this is not the case for smaller companies. And as we get closer to 2028, the need for energy efficiency becomes even greater because the cost of 1 ton of HFO, VLSFO that we burn will increase significantly from 2028 onward as we add the penalties on top of this bunker cost. So we may see in the future a two-tier market developing, so having the more energy efficient vessels, the vessels that have been upgraded, versus the older, less efficient tonnage that will be in the market. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see that you're doing so much, right? That means that a lot of the owners there's a lot of actions that can be taken today. So time flies, but I really want to touch upon financing because that's really key to help the industry advance. Very quickly, Semiramis, tell us, what are your thoughts? Are you able to get that financing? Are first moving being penalized?
Green transition is not only a technical challenge, it's also a financial challenge. We have found it very difficult to find financial support for these investments. The new IMO MEPC 83, who's introduced this reward mechanism, is in the right direction. The principle is simple. They've set targets for greenhouse gas emissions. The ships that reach those targets get financial incentive to compensate for the more expensive alternative fuels that they'll probably have to use in order to reach these targets. However, the investment, there's a paradox here. We are called to make these investments, but the actual way that this reward system will be calculated will not be decided until March 2027, which again creates a lot of uncertainty around this area. We have the European Innovation Fund, for example, which is collecting money from the European EU fuel measures. However, these have a lot of constraints. We have found that they have specifically around the European benefits, whether it's shipyards or technology built in Europe or trade between Europe. So it's very difficult to access this type of funds. The reality is that unless commercial stakeholders and ship owners get together and equally share the risks and the long-term benefits, we will not see a lot of rewards for first movers. Commercial stakeholders tend to be very vocal about the fact that they want to decarbonize and they want to be part of this green transition. In reality, they are not there to support any of these investments. They are concerned, again, with these challenges and uncertainty. I think platforms like the Global Maritime Forum, INTERMEPA and HELMEPA provide the setting for good discussions, exchange of ideas, technology, and some sort of mindset shift in order to be brave enough to make these decisions collaboratively. A ship owner on his own or on her own cannot do such investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Super quick.
Yeah.
They're going to kill me. We are over time.
Very quick. But I mean, my humble view is that financing is definitely a major issue. But I'd like to shift the conversation, a quick one.
Very quick.
A little bit.
Quick.
I think we are not necessarily talking about financing at the ship owners level. To me, the real bottleneck is financing at the ecosystem level. And I go back to my point, which is, I think the public agencies need to come in to be the real first mover. I use the word that Semiramis mentioned. It's not just imposing penalty or fines, it is catalyzing. I think that's where, if you can get public sector funding coming in, I'm talking perhaps to some of the people who are here as well, and then when it comes in, put in the money, put in infrastructure, policy clarity, I think that's where we really see traction in terms of investment decisions, whether they're ship owners or fuel producers.
Thank you, Weng. We can continue those discussions in the next break. But with that, all I have to say is a big thank you to the panelists for your insightful comments, audience for staying with us, and to the organizers. Thank you very much. Wish you a great North Shipping Week.